for the fighters. Tighten your straps, no pain, no gain. Feel the thunder in the rap. When with Nabs, hear the bell, we don't fold. Legends rise here, stories always told.
And today we're going to be having such an amazing guest in Bas Rutten. Thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Nabs.
Let's get the episode started. So let's go back to your childhood. Take me back to Tilburg in the Netherlands. What was life like for young Bas?
Young Bas was very sick as a kid. In Tilburg, I was. I had rheumatic fever. For 4 months, I stayed in a hospital there, which gave me a leaking heart valve. Actually, that's something I had to repair last month. Not the heart valve, but I had an AFib, so the heart valve didn't know how to handle that stress anymore. But that was Tilburg. And then once I moved to a town, Valkenswaard, that's when I started contracting severe asthma and severe eczema, the horrible skin disease.
So when you were experiencing all of those different problems, you encountered a lot of bullies throughout your life. Do you think later, looking back, as now you're much more mature, you're much further along in your journey, right? Do you think that the way you would have gone about addressing them it would be different than the way that you actually did?
Oh, I don't know. You know, bullies, to me, they only speak one language, you know, which is for them, unfortunately, violence, you know. So then I said, and the bully only goes as far as you let them. That's what I tell my daughters. So you got to step in. And then if you meet violence with greater violence, that was my principle. And I till this day, guys like that, listen, I tried talking for a long time. It doesn't work. You know, the more you talk, the more fun they're going to make of you. And once you knock somebody out, now suddenly you get their attention, and the problem was solved. Like one punch, one knockout, and suddenly everything was okay. So
I mean, didn't you one punch knock out one of your bullies, and then
most
of the problems went away?
That was it. Everybody was afraid of me because he was the biggest guy in my school, and well, I was surprised. It was literally he was out, one shot, and yeah, that changed everything. Everybody listened to that, and nobody wanted to mess with me anymore. So yeah.
So I think my favorite part of your story that I don't think I've heard you talk about on any interview is that you went to culinary school and you were a chef. So first off, what is your best dish? What are your daughters like for you to cook the most? And do you cook at home?
I do cook a lot, but you know, I'm in Texas right now, right? So I got a really great smoker.
Must be a lot of good barbecue.
A lot of barbecue. We still have a Rutten breakfast that I do, which I used to do with my parents for as long as we remember. It's steak. It's on a Sunday morning. It's always on a Sunday. It's steak. It's fresh bread. I make my own bread. And then it's red wine sauce you add. So after the steak is done, I do it now in the barbecue because I think it tastes better. Normally then I use the juices from there. I throw red wine in. I boil it down so the alcohol goes out so you don't get drunk, because otherwise we wouldn't get it as kids, of course, with garlic, with herbs. And what you do then, you take the bread and you dip that in that hot wine sauce that you have right now. And that every single person, when they come to my house and they eat that, they go like, dude, you got to start a restaurant like this. Just this. This is like the most insane thing. And then as a cooking thing, and this is what I do like twice a year. And it's always the same because they really enjoy it. I make a bouillon, a really good one though, over 3 days with a lot of bone marrow, a lot of meat, a lot of vegetables. I boil it all the way down, so it's a really cool bouillon. Then we have probably a salmon as an appetizer, but I make that probably with a béarnaise sauce or a Hollandaise, but I think béarnaise is a little sour because I can save the béarnaise for later for another dish if I want. The main course is probably going to be steak, and if it's a steak, it's going to be fillet. Normally, if you have multiple courses, you take a big ribeye after already having 2 courses, maybe even a salad 3, and then so 3 entrees, and then you have the big steak. That's maybe too much, so we take it like an 8 ounce or maybe 10 ounce because I can eat a lot. Nice filet, and then I know it's up to them. I can make. That's the great thing about the French cuisine. You know, you make the mise en place. It's what they call it. It's the preparation. You make a brown sauce that you make once a week, but you make it. It's like a bouillon. It takes a long time to make, but once it's there, it's a really good foundation to pretty much any other sauce. So you can make a cheese, a Roquefort sauce, a pepper sauce, a wine sauce. You know, you can mix that with everything. So I'll ask them. I say, "What do you want now? You want a pepper sauce, or you want a Roquefort sauce, or you want maybe whatever, a red wine?" I mix it with that. That will be the sauce for the steak. And then I do oh my Lord, now I forget. Oh my God.
I just want to interrupt for a second. Listen to the detail Bas is describing all of these different foods. This is when you could tell you got a real chef in yourself. And do you think that if you applied that same work ethic that you had to fighting to cooking, you could have gone on to be one of the greatest chefs of all time? Because I think when you talk about your fighting, you talk about how you break things down and you're very focused on the fundamentals and how things work. What's optimal and how do you capitalize on the weaknesses of opponent? I remember I read in an interview that you said that why would you want to do what your opponent is best at? You should go for their weaknesses because you're more likely to be successful there.
Yeah.
If you took that same approach and put it into the kitchen, do you think you could beat Gordon Ramsay in a 1v1 if your career looked very differently?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure because but I think everybody, you know. Okay, first of all, the love was there. Since I was 6 years old, I was already in love in cooking. I wanted to be a chef. So if the love is there, then it's very easy to attain greatness, because that's the same with fighting. Once I understood that my love was there for the submissions, then I became obsessed with it. And I think once I become obsessed with something, people have no idea what obsession is. Like, ask my wife. I was just telling this, you know, I would wake her up in the middle of the night because I would dream a submission, put her in that submission, and then I would say, oh, it's just holding you, hurts your shoulder. I would write it down. You know, I was constantly 24/7 busy with only submissions. Whole house was Post-its on the wall with combinations and lead-ups to combinations and different setups. Everything was that. Now, if you apply that to cooking or to any other job for that matter that you love, there needs to be the ingredient of love. Like, that's with fighters, you know, if there are some fighters that they just want what we have because they think it's cool. I don't think that that's the right reason to fight, and most of the time they don't make it. I think once you really love it and you're 100% invested, you can go great heights because you love doing what you do. There's some fighters who say they hate training, and I go, I would wake up excited to start working out, you know. So, and that's the same with cooking. Once you commit there, and cooking is also one of these things. These new herbs coming and the new little combinations, and now it's butter with oil.
There's infinite combinations.
Infinite.
That's
the same as with submissions.
Same with fighting.
And then once you realize that, now we can start exploring, you know. So I think if I would have done that, I truly believe I could have been a really great chef as well.
I really like to hear that. When you talk about the submissions, you got 8 in a row at one point in your career. It was 8 in a row, right?
That was after I lost the last fight by submission.
After you lost and then you said you trained 3 times a day on just submission grappling and taking people out. What do you think is your favorite submission to do and why?
You see, that's the question with me. I'm very happy with my career. Like, I won 15 fights by submission, but
you retired on top. Like 22 wins in a row. Like,
yep.
I don't think you could have closed out your career in a better way. Most guys, they have a massive hit to their career. They end on a loss streak. Maybe they have like 1 win, but they had a few losses before that. You had 22 in a row.
Yeah, once I understood the ground game, that was my Achilles heel, right? So fix that, and boom, I went off to the races. Everything was good. And with the submissions, when I said 15 submission victories, in Pancras there was different rules. In Pancras there was a rule that if I would submit somebody when he was close to the rope, and he was able to grab the rope, I had to let him go. But already, in a real fight, I would have won that fight, of course. So sometimes in one fight, I had 5 submissions. So I have 42 submissions in Pancras just alone. You know, okay, 15 of them were finishing and I think that made the Pancras organization so good. Pancras was a small organization, but we produced 6 or 7 UFC champions. Right? And people don't see that.
That's an insane stat.
It's an insane stat because those were the rules. Because normally if I submit somebody, fight's over. Not now, if you grab the rope, you got to go back on the feet, fight number 2 starts. You see, because you start again. So you have more ring time, more experience, every time more, you know, and now you got to be strategical because now it's like, okay, wait a minute, I can submit him, but he lay close to the ropes. Okay, let's drag him to the center of the ring first. But if you drag him to the center of the ring, you go for submission, and you miss it, now he's on top. And now he's in a better position, and you're not close to the rope. You see, there's a lot of strategy that you have to think about it as well. But all that together made those Pancras fighters so good and do so well in the UFC as well.
So 2 points on what you just said. One, these are also like 30-minute rounds you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, even if
and
you
no weight classes.
But no weight class. Didn't you say you fought a guy who's 33 pounds heavier
That was
than
my
you?
first guy, yeah, 33 pounds heavy. And I found out on the day of the fight. And that's when I also found out we only fought 1 round. 30 minutes ago. So now finding this guy, 6'3", 6'4" Japanese guy, in a 30-minute fight, I go, man, what am I doing here? It's crazy.
It's a little bit rough. And then the other thing I was going to say, it's the way you describe it's like a high-level chess match. You have all
100%.
these different moves. So what do you think is more important for a fighter? Fight IQ or raw speed and power?
A fight IQ. In MMA, 100%. Raw speed and power only gets you so certain way. And raw speed and power sometimes also is associated with anger. And I think once anger slips into your mind, this is where you start telegraphing and do all the things wrong. I think calm of mind, Fudoshin, it's an immovable mind. That's a logo that I had even on my rims for my car at the time.
And you also have to have the R's for relax.
For relax, yeah.
On your
Rustig in
hand.
Dutch. And that coincidentally started with an R, the same word in English. Because I knew that I needed to stay calm because I'm a hothead. And if somebody would hit me and I want to pay back right away, but if it's a 30-minute fight and this is early in the road and I can put him away, I got 28 more minutes to go.
You can't blow your gas tank out.
No, you see, so all these things made you more strategical.
So you had 14 knockouts in your first 16 kickboxing fights. Then you transitioned to MMA and you had your 22-fight unbeaten streak. Was there ever a specific fight for you, maybe when you captured the UFC title or when you got your King of Pancrase title, where you felt like I made it or you knew that you were the guy?
No, I never been like that. I always thought I just wanted to keep on winning. And I didn't care about what titles. Officially in Pancrase, if you think about it, I have 11 world titles if you think about it, because I've fought fights in between. Normally, when you're a champion, you fight a championship every time. But in Pancrase, it's not. You also fought other fights in between. And then a title fight again. But I always thought about, just keep on winning. Trying to see if I can get out on top. Which sometimes is hard, because I had a guy one time telling me, my God, you already won 11 fights in a row. And I go, oh, man. He goes, what? I wish you wouldn't have said that. Because I wasn't thinking like that. And now I became afraid. I go, if that gets in my head, maybe I'm going to start to fight like to win, but not really to finish. But thankfully, I guess I shaked it off. And because I got almost 90% finishing rate, because I didn't want to end that,
So you were never focused on the streak. You were just focused on, I'm going to finish this guy. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Just keep on winning. And then what at the end, we'll count what I did.
So that means the other thing I have to ask you, and I ask this to every guest on my show, one of the theses of my show is that winners lose more than losers do. And sometimes you need a loss to bounce back and win. So what do you think is the toughest fight of your life? It could be a win or a loss, but what do you think shaped the trajectory of your career the most?
I would say it was a win. It was a just win. It was my second fight in Pancrase. I already put the guy in a coma. My first guy, 43 seconds. So they were afraid of me. And they knew right away striking was my forte. And then the second fight, they started messing with me. So they let me travel for 8 hours on the day of the fight. You have to understand, if you come from Holland to Japan, nighttime is daytime. So that means I just slept maybe 1.5 hours. And then I have to wake up at 8 a.m. and I have to travel all day long on buses, on the Shinkansen, on the bullet train, all the way to Nagoya, wherever it was. And then I came there. They wouldn't allow me to go to my hotel, which I put my foot down. I said, I need a shower. Otherwise, I'm not going to fight. It's either that or not. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I showered. I went to the hotel. I was throwing up. I was sick. My manager was carrying my stuff. And I was in the fight. And he got me in an armbar. And I just wanted that because I didn't want to. I didn't want to be there because I was so sick. But then thankfully, the audience started chanting for him. And then my ego took over. And so I got out the armbar. But I didn't have a lot. I was very sick. And there was this one moment that I knew that everything needed to count. Whatever I was throwing needed to count because I didn't have a lot in me yet. And I was standing in the clinch and I saw him breathe. Something I never thought about. And somehow I'm looking down and I see him breathing. And on the third inhale, I knee him. And once you hit somebody on the inhale, he can't flex. You can do 5,000 sit-ups a day. It doesn't matter. If you inhale, they hit you. That's why they always say in boxing, for instance, in Thai boxing, in the later rounds where they're getting tired, go for the body. Because they can't control the breathing anymore. And if you catch them on the breathing in, you knock them out. And that's how I knocked him out. And then I realized, okay, I will never quit mentally like I just did with the armbar. That really set me, okay, I can flip I wanted to tap, and a minute and a half later, I'm on my knockout.
You fought through the adversity there.
That's it. And then I thought, from now on, I will never have that even doubt in my mind. I will never even think about stopping. We're just going to go see what happens. So,
what advice do you have for people when they feel like they're going to tap, they feel like they're going to quit? And again, not just in fighting, but just in life. How do you advise them to keep going and find that inner strength?
It's like a mentality that I have when I go into a fight. You can never think you're going to lose. But imagine you're fighting a freaking brutal guy and you go like, okay, it's going to be a tough one. But you know what? He's going to feel he's going to be in a fight. Whatever happens, whatever the outcome is, he's not going to come out unscathed. I'm going to get everything I got. And I think if you have that attitude in life, so when things get hard for you, it's for a reason. God puts that in a certain reason for you. If you go through that, because it's the only way to go through it, right? So if you go through hell, go through it, because if you stop, well, it's still there. You got to go through it in order to go on the other side, and then you can start working again. So I never saw my losses as bad. I saw my friends crying after a loss, and I never had that. I literally lost. I go, no, because I go like, well, I guess I'm going to have to train harder. I mean, this is, I'm not good enough, so I'm going to have to train harder. And that lit a fire on me to train even harder, focus even more. And then suddenly, you start
Well,
winning.
that's why
and
you
you're
find
stuck.
more success. I think also the way you approach loss versus other people is, well, I could sit here and cry about it, or I can take it as an opportunity to get better.
Yeah.
Which I think was where a lot of people end up going wrong in different places in life. It could be they fail to test, oh, well, I'm not good at this, so I'm not going to bother trying. Or you know, it's the mindset of like, oh, well, I'm not going to be good anyways, versus, you know what, this is an opportunity to improve and learn from my mistakes or lack of effort or whatever. I think it is pretty much that simple.
But it's also when you commit, you know, if you say yes or no, you know, once you say yes, you said yes. You didn't say maybe. So if you say to me, hey, Bas, can you arrange this for me? And I'm thinking first, can I actually do this? Yeah, I can do it. Yes. Once I say yes, I'm committed. There will be no
bond
anymore.
is a word.
That's it. And I think once people live that there, and you, especially to yourself, you know, a lot of people are not, the first person in the world you should be honest to is yourself, right? Addiction starts like that. Like I woke up hundreds of times, today I'm not going to drink. And at 3 o'clock I pop the first drink. And boom, you're in the cycle again. And the more I say today I'm not going to drink and I break that promise, the weaker I'm getting. That's how a vice gets weaker. Once you say, stop, let's be under control here. And you say no to that, it's hard. That's suffering, actually. Suffering is saying no to the things that will give you pleasure, but steer you away from God. And if you don't believe in God, steer you away from having a good life. Just use that, you know. And as soon as you say stop, it's a hard thing to do. The next day, saying stop, still hard, but not as hard. And then a week later, and 2 weeks later, 3 weeks, every time you say stop to it, it becomes easier. You didn't lose your weight by saying, oh, I'm going to keep on eating. You said one day, this is it. I got to stop now.
A wake-up call, yeah.
And that was the wake-up call. But then you stuck to it. And a lot of people in the beginning, because you don't see a lot of movement. Well, in the beginning, actually, probably water retention goes fast. But then there's that hurdle that takes a while, because now the fat's going to be burned. And it takes a longer time. And that puts a lot of people back, because they go, I was going so fast in the beginning. Yeah, there was water. That's easy. I mean, you can lose 12 pounds in 2 days, you know, by just water retention. But then once the real fat, you need to start attacking that. It's going to go slower.
You hit the plateau, and you're looking at the scale, and nothing changes, and you're like, oh well, I'm working so hard, and there's no change. So why should I even bother? And that's where a lot of people, they end up going back to their old ways. Or alternatively, which is even more unfortunate, is sometimes, and I've read a lot about this into psychology of it, is they'll lose all the weight, and then after a few months, they'll gain all of it back.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the discipline to keep going. You're like, well, I got to my goal, and then slowly but surely they let themselves slip. It's like, oh, I have a six-pack now, so it's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
But then it ends up happening because they neglect the choices that originally got them to where they were.
I heard a really good line. It's like you don't get self-esteem from a six-pack at the gym. You get self-esteem from going to the gym every day. That's how you get self-esteem, to not break that cycle. It's like what I do with my prayer routines and, I like the rosaries and everything. I'll never break it. For the last 11 years, I will never miss one. And that's why, because I say, this is what I'm going to do, and I stick to my word. I'm going to be true to myself on this, and I'm going to be true to God. And then you do what you do. And if you can apply this on everything else as well. And that's with you, right? I mean, you did it already, and now you're on a freaking rise with the podcast, because you know you have to break the barriers. You got to be smart to do interviews. It's not like what all these people think it's easy and do some crazy stuff. You know, thankfully you don't do that. Thankfully you dress nice. Thankfully you put an example. Thankfully you were overweight. Like all these things are going to work so well for you because people know you've been there. It's like David Goggins. He was heavily overweight.
Oh, Goggins was one of my biggest inspirations during the whole journey. I read the book, everything.
But that's what I'm saying. He says, as soon as I said I was fat, not overweight. No, you don't. I don't cook in overweight cow stuff. No, I cook in lard. That's fat. It's animal fat. It's not animal overweight. You know, name it what it is. It's fat.
You
it's
have to
there.
Be honest to yourself.
And be honest to yourself. And that hits you in the face. And because it hits you in the face, now you want to get rid of it. But if I'm overweight, oh yeah, it's okay. You're patting it down. You make it nice. Don't.
So going back to something that you kind of touching on something you said, something that I respect a lot about you is that you're a man of faith and you're also a family man. And you gave up your pancreas title to become a father. Well, I think it was when you were having your second daughter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so what was going through your head when you made that decision? Because that's a very tough call to make, especially you're in your prime. You're you're on a massive win streak there. What made you make that decision?
Yeah, there was also another thing attached to it, which made it worse. Like my wife had a poisoning. It's called the HELP syndrome. And there was a high chance that she was going to die and the baby was going to die. And then they told my wife to abort the baby. because otherwise she might die. My wife says, no, we're not going to abort the baby. We're going to do whatever is going to happen is going to happen. You know, and I know that these are moments that I can never get back. You know, and so I of course, I stayed with her. It's like, for instance, when I came to America, it was very hard with money, and I got a really good deal from the WWE. And I thought this was like 20 shows a year. No, this is 220 shows a year.
220?
That's
so
without,
like almost
that's
every
without
day.
the
That's
traveling.
almost every day.
Yeah, without the traveling, because you're going to have to travel there as well, right? And my daughter was just born, my third daughter. And I said, no. I said, because that is time I can never get back with her. You know, the time with my daughter, especially when she grows up. So thankfully, I said no. And thankfully, God provided. You know, it was okay. But that was a moment also that I go, because you see, it was a lot of money. And you go like, instant gratification. Everything will be set right away. You don't have to worry. But
there's things that matter more sometimes.
Way more,
than
and that's
even when you're in that struggle.
Yep.
I think something, especially when your kids are really little. I mean, Dad's here. Obviously, I'm not going to be a father for a long time, hopefully. But you know, there's only so much time that you're going to be able to have when they're younger, and you're not going to be able to get it back. And if you're traveling for almost the entire year, also in America, because I would imagine you were living in Japan at the time, right?
No. I was in America at that moment.
Oh, you're living in okay. But even so, you'd be on the road for all the different shows.
That's it, because you got to travel there.
WWE.
You know, and if you hear those stories like Stone Cold Steve Austin, we had him on our show. I went on his show. He was literally the only money they had like $75 a show, and then he has to go to the next state. He bought a bag of potatoes, raw potatoes, and he was eating raw potatoes while he was driving to the next show.
Insane.
That's what people don't see. Like people see,
they just see them on the big screen.
That's
and the
it,
pay-per-views,
and they want that, but they don't want to do the same work that we had to do in order to get there. That's the envy. That's the part right now. That's what all they want everything you have except your job, right? They only see the very end. They don't see the struggles, the pains. You know, that my last fight I had to go to a different house. I said to my wife, I was so injured. I go, I'm not going to be a happy guy. I don't want to stay at home and be a douche. You know, I just went to a different house, a friend of mine. Because, you know, you become irritated because everything hurts, but you still have to fight. I mean, I blew so much money on all the regeneration for my injuries. I was $35,000 in the hole, you know, and then not fighting is, well, that's going to set me back a big one. So, you know, then you make those decisions. Okay, I want to keep the peace. I'm going to be somewhere else because I don't want to snap at the family. And I'm not a snap guy.
I really respect that as well because... Yeah. You even described even your times when you were struggling with your addiction problems. You were always still happy. You were always kind to your family. So I think that it's really important that you were able. You would notice when you were injured, you were like, "Look, I can't do this."
Yeah.
And you're able to manage expectations for what your training camp was going to look like. You had that horrible neck injury, and you're at that point you were towards the end of your career, so your body was pretty battered. So I think that it's really respectful and commendable that you were able to do that. And I wanted to segue into something which is very, very different, a little bit more fun, which is you were a color commentator and strategy analyst for Pride FC, which was, for those of you who don't know, basically one of the biggest MMA organizations pre-UFC. And it was in Japan, obviously. Another big personality who I'll mention now in a story. There's a video of you back then taking some of Rampage Jackson's fried chicken in the locker room. So what was the story behind that? And why did he have chicken in the locker room?
Well, Quentin's crazy. He eats fried chicken before his fight. I have no clue how people do that, but...
Very successful. Very successful fighter.
Insane
so it works
fighter.
for him.
Insane fighter. Only thing, he hates training. I go like, that's a tough job, dude. I mean, he literally told me that he hates training. They had no leash on me with Pride Fighting Championships. And I think that's what allowed me to do whatever I wanted to do. And they know I'm not going to yell and use profanity. So they knew I'm in line all with that. But I can be crazy because I've always been a crazy guy. Because as a kid, when you don't get attention, what do? I got expelled from one class, I think, over 60 times in 1 year. So that because I was the class clown. Because if people didn't like me, I'm going to force them to like me. But the teacher didn't like that, kicked me out the whole time. You see, and I think that personality stayed with me, always trying to make people happy, because they always put me down. So I'm going to try to see if I can make them happy. So once I brought that to Pride, okay, I just shot the movie with The Rock, right? Smashing Machine about Mark Kerr, who was my student. Well, who's going to play Bas Rutten? But they couldn't find anybody. So the director called me and says,
it's
got to be you. You got to be you because there's no way.
Really quick sideway. How was that? How was that? Playing yourself. That must have been really cool.
It was really cool. It was really cool to meet Emily Blunt, and the first thing that she did was, hey, bang, 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 bang. She knew the bar fighting video. So that was very cool. And then The Rock is exactly him and I have been texting or tweeting before acting now, I guess. Many years already, and always like good things. He used quotes that I used. You know, it's only pain, it won't hurt. You know, I do these things, and he would post that hashtag in his 4 a.m. workouts. So we always had that relationship.
Did you get a
the first
workout
time we
with
met.
him on set?
No, we didn't, man. I don't know how this guy is doing it. I know why he is able to do it. It's the pro wrestling, because that set him up for that insane schedule, because we know now 220 shows
220.
So that sets him up for this career that he has right now. You have no idea how busy he is and how meticulous it is with everything and how he really transformed into Mark Kerr. You know, it was, I think this movie is going to do really well with the people.
Did you do any actual coaching on techniques with The Rock? So it was looked right for the movie, because obviously
100%.
Mark Kerr was your student. So
Yep.
when you were coaching The Rock, like beyond even the acting, you're like, here's how you do X strike or kick
Yep.
or whatever.
100%. And he was also, you know, because the stunt guys are there, but if they were explaining something, he was just looking at me. He goes, you say what I need to do. You know, and the script for me, of course, was easy because they give me the lines. He says, but needless to say, do what you normally do. Just teach. And that's what I did. So I think it came out really well. I think his performance came out. Yeah, Emily Blunt is already Oscar nominated, right? I mean, for Oppenheimer. So she's an incredible actress. I think Ryan Bader did really good playing Coleman. That was really nice to see. So he might have a future in that even. So I think we're the 4 leads of the movie. So I come in a little bit later. They changed the script a little bit when because Mark did leave me one time because he was so. There's a lot going on, and I don't want to say this because the movie we have to start promoting it like 6 weeks before. But there was a lot going on at home, and also with him. That also was one of the decisions to not come to me. But then he lost, and then he lost another fight. He came back, and then we started winning again. You know, so there was always this little thing between him and me and his wife. And but you'll see that in the movie.
I'm really excited to see it. So I have to ask then, you had a bunch of different movies in Hollywood. You had Here Comes the Boom. And most notably to a lot of the younger audience, Paul Blart Mall Cop. You were in it for a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie or Hollywood experience that you've been a part of? It could be a scene. It could be a full movie. If you had to pick like one piece of a Hollywood picture, what is it for you?
Yeah, for me, it was in the movie Here Comes the Boom, which was really cool. They didn't want to have me, first of all, Sony Studios, because I'm a fighter, I'm not an actor. And then I shot a short comedy called Kingdom of Ultimate Power. And we won first prize at the New York Film Festival with it. And I was the lead in that, together with another guy. And then Kevin James showed that movie to the Sony Studios, and they said they were okay with it. So now I'm on board, playing his coach. But one guy was still not. And he really didn't want me on the movie because he thought it's such a big budget movie, it's not going to work. But my acting wise, and then the first scene I shot was the singing scene for you know, when I do Highway Run. You know, that was the very first scene.
Where'd you get the
that I
singing
shot.
skills from?
Yeah, not really. But anyway, I did that scene, and then I went back to my trailer, and I got a knock on the door, and it was that guy, and he says, "I'm here to apologize." He says, "That what you just did?" He said, "That was so good. I was so doubting you," and he said, and that was I get goosebumps now. So that was a real cool moment for me because I wanted to make them know. Listen, they have no idea how hard acting is. Do you
think it's harder? So I actually asked this to another fighter. Do you think it's harder sometimes to be a public speaker and an actor than a fighter? Because, you know, they say the number one fear in the world for most people is public speaking. More than death. Death is number 2.
Yeah.
Number 1 is public speaking.
Yeah, it was weird because in the beginning of fighting, I was more scared of interviews than I was for fighting.
Really?
Yeah, and then once you start doing it a lot, that's the thing. You do it a lot, and once you do it a lot, you get comfortable. And it was the same with acting. You know, you once you do, but I'm an animal in preparation. I had 3 ways I could play the character. You know, I started 5-6 weeks out with a private coach, constantly hammering everything in. Once you can dream your lines, then you can start playing with how you're going to deliver them. And in that scene, how you want me to do it, like this, or you want me to do it like this? You go, dude, that's really good. And then you start adding like the twisty thing, you know. And I remember the first time I did with, he says, yeah, things got a little twisty. Every time I said twisty, I would do this. And Kevin broke out laughing. He goes, dude, that's so funny. I go, yeah, I had to do something crazy on that weird word. So I figured I'd do this, you know. So all these little things, they start falling together. And then suddenly it becomes the character. So yeah, that was cool.
So in that experience, maybe not necessarily when you were in Hollywood, but just in general, is there a story about you that we haven't heard before? Something funny that maybe there's like a crazy experience you had on set or behind the scenes before a fight. You know, you had a crazy moment. Like, what is something we've never heard you share?
I don't think I said this story, not in a thing, and it's kind of an. Yeah, now it's going to look like I want to brag, but it was a funny story because we shot Martial Law. That was an old TV show with Sammo Hung, and Sammo Hung is this Chinese fighter. He's together with Jackie Chan. They grew up, you know, and he's in a lot of movies. He's actually in the opening scene of Enter the Dragon, when he gets stabbed with an upside down crucifix. It's a weird thing that Bruce Lee beats him.
That must have been a really full circle moment for you then.
Yeah,
to
because
work
he was
with
there.
him.
But he's also surrounded by all these tough Japanese guys, these secret service, whatever they are, you know, they're around him. And there was already this talk about me because I was still fighting at the time. And I was with Kevin James, actually, because I told Kevin, I was training with Kevin, and we know each other 28 years. So we know each other a long time since he started the King of Queens. And Kevin said, I'm going to be on Martial Law. I go, dude, they asked me too. He says, whoa, wait, because it's CBS, same as King of Queens. Let me call them and see if we can be in the same episode. Okay, good. So we got in the same episode. He's a guard from a bank, and I'm the robber from the bank. So he gives me this. So that was the setup. So now we're going on the roof, and I'm training on the roof. And these people are there. The security is there from Sammo Hung, and everybody's Sammo Hung. He's a tough guy. And, you know, there's this thing on, you know, because I'm the real fighter. He's the actor fighter who's the best. You know, there's this little thing going on. But he's a really nice guy. There's nothing. So they had built this big thing with a bag on it, with a bag. But it's a Hollywood bag. It's filled like with cotton balls or something. I cannot hit it. Like when I hit it, it flies. And I go, there's no way I can hit this bag. I need a heavier bag. So they find a heavier bag. I hit the thing, boom, and the whole thing goes down, boom. You know, so now they had to drill it into the floor, and they drilled it into the floor, and I start hitting the bag, and the chain breaks. So now they have to fix the chain. And then I hit again, and the other chain breaks. You know, and this is like literally like Kevin is like, this is not happening. Like, so because everybody starts slowly but surely realizing, okay, you know, and it was just dumb luck. Like a chain, I never had a chain break. It's just, but somehow a weak chain was there at that moment, you know, and it
Wrong
broke,
place,
and then
wrong
the other
time.
one, and the whole thing came down, and the bag I couldn't hit. So all these things together was like, this guy is Superman, but. Again, it's just dumb luck because I can't break a chain. Trust me, it's just a weak chain.
Was there a part of you that had a little bit of an ego boost because one of your childhood heroes witnessed you breaking a chain on heavy bag? That's a pretty cool thing to happen in front of someone who you looked up to.
And first the whole thing came down. You know, the whole combination. I had this many times that something happened. I was at a party, I tell really fast, in Denmark, and we were with the Hells Angels because they set something up. It's a long story. Anyway, afterwards, we were at this big party. People are drunk. People are going crazy. And I see these Hells Angels with a bow and arrow, and they're trying to hit this plastic duck. There's a plastic goose standing like 20 yards away, and nobody can hit it. I'm drunk out of my mind. I walk up, and I go, I'll show you how to do it. And I pull the trigger, I pull the bow.
Well, you were drunk.
And I shoot it somehow. I aim at the body, and I shoot it straight to the head, right? And I say, and that's how you do it. And I walk away, and they go like, what the heck? Now, I can do that shot 100,000 more times. I will never hit it again. It was dumb luck. But, you know, that one dumb luck in front of all these guys was like, holy moly, did you see what he did? He just shot it through the head. So they think I can do this every time.
You think you could do it? That's easy for you.
But there's no way I can do this the second time. You see, it was dumb luck. But those things I had a bunch of times. And then people go, oh my God, did you see he did this, he did this? But there's always at that moment, I'm even thinking, how the heck this just happened? So it's dumb luck. I'm not that good.
Well, you know, they also have that phrase, quit while you're ahead.
100%. Yeah, I will never
If you
think.
keep going, you're not hitting that shot again.
Never. The head was this big. On 20 yards or 15 yards. So long. It's far, 15 yards. You know, with a bow and arrow, just a regular, not even a compound bow. Now with my compound bow, yeah, that's a different story. I'll probably shoot it in the head, you know. But the regular bow that just lays there, nah, it's not gonna happen.
That reminds me. The other day, I was playing pickup basketball with my friends, and one of my friends behind his back threw the ball from half court, and it went in.
Yeah, I see.
And then all the guys were like, "Do it again!" So we get on video. It's like, I'm not touching the basketball for the rest of the session.
I was with Marco Huas. We did a seminar somewhere, and it was in the basketball court also. And while we're walking out, says one guy, "I bet you can't hit that ball." He gives it to Marco all the way across the thing. And Marco takes the swing, and he goes straight in.
Full court?
And I go, full in. And I go,
That's
there's
insane.
no way. Yeah, that was a cool moment.
So I think the next part of the show is I'm going to ask you a couple of fun rapid fire questions.
All right.
So who's the toughest opponent you've ever faced?
Funaki Mazgatsu.
What's your funniest MMA memory? Did you ever have like a weird exchange with a fighter before or after a fight? Like not like hostile, but like weird.
No, but during the fighting Frank Shamrock, we had whole conversations while we would fight.
Whole conversation.
Yeah, we would just laugh constantly at each
What's there
other.
to talk about?
No, just
during
saying,
the
he
fight?
says, I know you go for an armbar, it's not going to work. I said, oh man, I'm too strong for that, even if you're going to get it. And hey boss, good old times, right? We were just talking somehow.
Just like old pals, like
Yeah.
just chatting it up?
Yeah, but it works, because Frank's still a friend of mine, so he's a good guy.
Really? You
Yeah.
guys are still good friends?
Yeah.
Did you ever end up after that fight training with each other?
No, we never, not with any fighter, I think. I never trained with any of these guys.
So who hits harder, Masakatsu Funaki or Kevin Randleman?
Randleman.
Really?
Well, I knocked out Croak up.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you were spending so much time in Japan, what did you really like about it when you were there?
The camaraderie among the fighters. People have no idea what we would do. Would all hang out, all go to dinner, all go to lunch, all go to breakfast. Everybody's
Even your
together.
opponents?
Even the opponents. I wouldn't sit next to my opponent, of course, then, but there was never any animosity. I had these crazy things. We had these guns, like these airsoft guns that I got there. I went through security one time in Holland. It was like a Glock 17, and they stopped me because of that fake
yeah.
gun. And the guy puts it here and he says, hey, boss, because they knew me from fighting. He said, hey, he pulls his Glock and he puts it next to it. And I go, oh, yeah, I got it. It's exactly the same. I say, what if I color it orange? But I was really good with that. I could shoot. Like when I came to America, people go like, dude, how can you shoot? I go, well, that was the air gun because I always shoot. And he said, what, $10? And you could load them and we would walk on the street. And if we would see each other, there was a big rule. We cannot shoot above the waist. But we shoot the legs or the butts, and those other people could not be around. So we would, if I'm coming around the corner and I see freaking whoever, a fighter around the corner, I go, oh, I load the gun, and we go, pop.
So all the fighters had this hidden code where like they would shoot each other below the legs.
Below the legs,
with,
yeah.
with
It was a
like
certain
little
amount of
airsoft
fighters.
guns.
Yeah, and that stuff. And then going to Virtua Fighter, that was this big video game at the time, and then everybody's playing against each other. We're going to the zoo with all the fighters, going to the movie theater with all the fighters. Those moments are great moments.
I think that's a side that I've never really heard about because even now, I think there is a lot more respect than there has been at some periods of time in organizations like the UFC. But I think a lot of that camaraderie is lost.
Yeah.
Because even if there's respect, I don't think I've ever heard of fighters shooting each other with airsoft guns and it's all good.
Yeah, no,
You know?
that was just fun. And that was not the whole group, but it was a bunch of kind of fun
But even
guys.
if it's a few, like even if
Yeah.
it's your opponents and people you're collaborating, going against or collaborating with, it's a
Yep.
really, really cool experience. So acting or, I already asked that earlier. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And what's the best piece of advice that you have for other people?
Just one line, that helped me a lot. How do you want to be remembered if you're dead? And whatever you want to do in life, if you truly listen to that, and that's what you want to leave behind, how do you want to be remembered? Like the cheater who takes performance-enhancing drugs, like the douche who was everybody. Oh, you want to be, just a good guy, and and I think when you really take that to the heart, I think you need a lot of discipline for that. And by the way, discipline, I always say, is the highest form of self-love you have, right? If you really think about it. Discipline is like literally saying no to the things that you want now for something better later on. So discipline really reveals the commitment that you made to yourself. If you, think about if you want to be a fighter, you have to say no to a lot of things in order to get there. So the future you is depending on the current you to do what you said you were
you
going to do.
promised yourself you're going to do.
Yeah. And I think to stay with that and not to leave off the path and to stay on that path, that's discipline and that's strength, So that's why I think strength is always the number one thing that a person needs. And I don't need physical strength, of course. I mean, it's strength to be patient, to have humility. Like all these things take a lot of strength, especially nowadays, people screaming at you, and to just stay moderation of anger, meekness, relax, that takes a lot of strength. And once you can apply that to everything, life's going to be great.
So I got to ask you, talk about physical strength. How are you maintaining your body? Because you're in great shape right now, even as you approach the older stages of life. How do you maintain your body, and what does your workout schedule look like?
I try to work out every day. The short workouts, 40-minute workouts. I have a cable routine that I do, which is really good for the core as well. Punching power. I do have a reversed everything as well. It's all on my YouTube channel if people want to know. I do a water workout with water resistance gloves. I jump in the river. That's 100 yards from my house. I do this crazy exercise. People go like, how do you look like that? I did that for years. And people go like, how do you look like that? It's a water workout. It's also on my YouTube channel. They can see what it is. And then weights. I do weights now as well. I try to do sauna every day because sauna is just really good, an infrared sauna. I have a cold plunge, so I try to do that as well. And the biggest thing is this: if you do not want to work out, work out. Because at the moment you don't want to work out but still work out, you not only trained yourself physically but also mentally. Now you broke through that barrier. And last year I had an AFib, so my heart was really going out of control. And trust me, I did not want to train. I couldn't train. But I didn't know it was an AFib, so I just did it.
Wow.
So it was stupid because it's not good for the body, of course, but it made me mentally much stronger, of course, because I really didn't want to work out. I just did it.
You did it anyways.
Yep.
So I think the last thing I got to ask you is, now you're involved with karate combat and you're still focusing on MMA, and it's still a big part of what you're doing now. So what keeps you excited about it as you're much further along and you're past your own fighting career?
Just the skill level, it's so completely different, right? With us, I found out very early on what cross-training was, and a lot of people said they knew, but they didn't, It was combining the grappling with the striking. It's the combination that makes you tired. If you do one day I do striking, the next day I do wrestling, the next day I do submissions, it's the combination that makes you tired. Because once you start working out your core with submissions and with wrestling, you start pumping up. Well, pumping up, chest expansion is done by your breathing muscles. Once this gets tight, it's harder to breathe. So let's get used to that. So now it's punching with power training. So I did stamina power training. I always start mixing them up. Now they understand. Everybody does that. In the beginning, some people I thought
science is so advanced
it's
now.
Crazy.
The way it works, and like even when you think about the training that you did like 20 years ago versus how people are training now, like it's insane, like the developments that have been made.
Yeah, but
and how they optimize technology to also benefit some of the athletes.
And food and everything, nutrition, everything is much higher. But I think the fighting aspect, I think they make it too complicated sometimes. I think if you stay with very basic rules, with distance, how to stay out of distance, how to control the distance, like to plant your feet for a moment of impact, where the power comes from, those things are the most important thing in fighting. And I think the rest you can all train. But if these guys want to flashes, they want to do this, they want to do these weird things, don't, stick to the fundamentals. Fundamentals always win in everything. Even in debating, there's fundamentals that you use, and you always use the same fundamentals, and that build on that. Of course, then it starts changing because you're building on it. But the foundation of a house,
foundation,
right?
100%. You can't build a house on top of a bunch of sticks.
Exactly, and once you have that, then you can start moving around. But nowadays, everybody wants things too fast. And stamina, it's like this. Like I have that O2 trainer, right? This is an inspiratory muscle training to enhance your stamina. Now you have these guys, strength and conditioning coaches, and none of them pays attention to breathing. It's like. And how can you be a coach of the year, strength and conditioning coach of the year, if you don't spend it? Like Jack Daniels, not to drink, of course, but Jack Daniels is the best endurance coach on the planet. Every Olympian athlete, endurance athlete for running, they go to him. First thing he does, put you on a treadmill, take your shirt off. He watches how you breathe. Wow. And once he sees, you're breathing wrong, he'll fix that first, because the better you breathe, the more oxygen you get, the longer you can work out, the more information you can put in. Everything gets better on that. And nowadays, it's all power training and more muscles. And no, it's about breathing first. But I've been breathing since I was a kid. Yeah, but until you were 5.5 years of age, that disappeared. Till 5.5, you're perfect. After that, everybody starts chest breathing. If I take a deep breath, people do this. That's completely wrong. 4 to 6 deep breaths is the same as 1 diaphragmatic breath. Take the lowest number. So instead of 4 times breathing like this, 1 time with your belly. That's gigantic. And now when you start training your breathing muscles, the muscles responsible for expanding your chest, because that's how breathing works, right? Your lungs don't do anything. There's no muscle in a lung. If you can't expand your chest, you die. Very simple. The chest expansion creates a vacuum between the body and the lungs, and that vacuum, that opens up your lungs. That's how you breathe. So if you expand your chest, that's not because you put air in it. You expand your chest, and that's how you pull the air in. And people go, whoa, what? Yeah, now, 11 pounds of breathing muscles are responsible for expanding your chest, which is your diaphragm and your intercostals in between the ribs. The more you can expand, the more you can fill up your lungs. So now suddenly you start training, wait a minute, if I do a lot of power training, this gets all compact. It would be stupid. Stretch your freaking
You gotta
chest
stretch it
muscles
out.
because it needs to be flexible. And then you start thinking about endurance. How do you use endurance increases, right? People say that. Well, it's doing a muscle, training the same muscle over and over again. And that becomes more efficient at its job. And therefore, stamina increases because it uses less oxygen. Okay, so why do I start gassing? Well, gassing actually, and I explained that on the other show, it's like when you start gassing, that is whether you use your arms. Let's say you're running a hill and suddenly you start gassing. Your body starts redirecting oxygenated blood, and it pulls it away from your legs, and it sends it to the number one priority in the body, which are your breathing muscles. Because 3 minutes without, you're dead. So that's why they do that. Okay, but you just said if you work out a muscle over and over again, you give it more endurance and better stamina. Why don't I work out my 11 parts of breathing muscles? Oh, okay. Well, that's what the auto trainer does.
Well, it's like not training a part of your body and wondering why it's weak. It's the same exact idea.
Exactly. Like, oh, I know how to run. Yeah, but can you sprint? No, not yet. But you know how to walk, you said. But you can't beat freaking Usain Bolt. Maybe you're going to need some weights for that. Well, this is weight training for your breathing muscles. So it blows me away that they don't see that yet. And I think once a coach grabs onto that and he sees how important it is, because all the fighters with great stamina, watch him in the corner. Michael Chandler,
He trains like a beast.
Yeah, but he's just like this in the corner. You won't see any movement here. And that's because
He trains the right way.
He breathes the correct way. And that's just breathing the correct way. Imagine making those breathing muscles stronger, what that happens. Then you delay your gassing by freaking 60, 70%. It's gigantic. Every Olympian athlete does it, endurance athlete. But people don't. They want to focus on looking good. I never cared about how I look good, how I look. Like people, I was doing power training things. He says, yeah, but you're going to have a hunched over. I said, I don't care. I care about freaking hurting people and stopping people. That's what I care about.
Doing your
Later
job,
I
getting
fix
it
the rest.
done.
Well, that's what I do. I don't care. If I would win world titles wearing a pink tutu, I would wear a freaking pink tutu. I don't care what people think. If that's going to help me somehow, I'm going to do that, you see. But people are all about, they want to look good. It's not about looking good. There's a lot of ego, Vovchanchyn. Vovchanchyn, Fedor Emelianenko. Like, look at these guys. Do they have six packs? Hey, but they're murderers. They will beat the crap out of you. Yeah, all that stupid time that you waste on weights, why don't you use that same time on fighting something that you actually are going to do? That's always been my principle. Now, of course, you need strength and conditioning, but short. I do 30, 35-minute workouts, but they're freaking intense. It's all power temp because fight is not longer than 35 minutes. Train for that. Train for your body to throw out a lot of energy in a short amount of time because that's what fighting does. If you say, I train 8 hours a day, what are you doing? Your fight is like 3 rounds of 5 minutes or maybe 5 rounds of 5 minutes. You're wasting a lot of time. But once you get your body used to throwing out a lot of energy in a short amount of time, it gets used to that. It's not an endurance race, it's a freaking stamina race. Stamina is different than endurance, right? Stamina is doing the most that you can do in the shortest amount of time. That's stamina. Endurance is doing something at 80% for the longest time as you can. Fighting could be a long game. Could be fast, but you better be ready for the going all the way, because if not, that could be a big problem. So it's very basic, and some people still don't see it. I don't get that.
So, Bas, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. From the kitchen to the octagon to Hollywood, you've had such an amazing career.
Crazy.
And I'm so honored to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more content like this. Catch you guys in the next episode of Win with Nabs.